Good evening, everyone. A little bit of Money Date, a little bit of Aretha Franklin, and let's get talking about what comes first. We couldn't have it all, as she says. Let's get talking about what comes first, chicken or the egg, or the analogy I like to give in terms of our finances. Do we focus on paying off our debt first versus funding the emergency fund? I welcome everybody. My name is Anna Surgunina and I'm excited. Wednesdays are by far my favorite days of the week, just because a lot of stuff going on. No, it's not a hump day. I don't care for that, but I do care for coming here and chatting with you about all kinds of money related topics. I hope you're doing well. Money dates are about us giving ourselves a little bit of time to pause, reflect, check in with ourselves. And so this is my friendly reminder to everyone who's used to coming here Wednesdays to take a look at 3 things that make up the basis of your financial plan. You've got to understand where your income is coming from and how much of it you have actually earned. You've got to understand where your spending has been for the last week. And you've got to stay on the top of your savings goals. I've had a pretty busy day today in terms of client meetings. And the conversation across all of those meetings goes like this. What are your priorities? What are your targets? And how can you stay on the top of that? So remember, there are tools out there that allow you to track all of these very simple things. Although many of us do not like to do. But as I came to realize, and Money Date is my own creation, was I needed the time for myself to work on my financial plan, right? And this is not even a full blown financial plan. This is the foundation that we all have, because from day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, you get to see a transition, right? You get to live your life. But finances, right, and money particularly, something that's supposed to help you. It's not supposed to be an evil kind of thing that you don't want to talk about. So my idea for you is, how do you do this on more passive basis? How do you find ways to make more money? Hi Neer, good to have you. And how do you stay on track with your savings goals? So this is my friendly reminder for you tonight. Now, I want to chat about something that kind of came about, and it's a popular question I get from all of my clients. I sort of used an analogy of chicken or the egg, and what comes first. And we can probably stay on this broadcast for hours or days arguing, right, what really was the first thing that came about. But the idea here is, let's say you found yourself in a situation where you have sort of conflicting priorities. And the most typical conflicting priorities are having debts that you're focusing on maybe paying off or wanting to. Hi Ben and Jeff, good to have you guys. And on the other side, you also feel the need and the pressure, hi Cliché, good to have you here, to establish an emergency reserves fund. A lot of times people get in debts because this side of the equation, so it's my chicken and it's my egg, is not in the right place. So I want you to think about this as I'm gonna kind of talk through the logic that makes sense, right? And for most people's financial situations, there is a solution where you can have both of it. Now, in my view, I love to live the life to the fullest. Hi, Lisa. Good to have you here. So I want to have it all, and I'm going to show you how you can do that as well. As you guys are hopping on, I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Share this out. Good to have you, Lisa. Share this out, and then also, before we get into the actual discussion of our sort of hi Jim topic, I would love to hear what are your wins for the week. Now, you know I'm referring to my money wins, or your money wins. And I want you to reflect back about one positive thing, event, a thought, a feeling that took place that you can pause and say, yeah, it's something that I feel good about. And so my days have been kind of crazy over the last couple of weeks for lots of reasons that I'm yet to tell you. But what has been really conspiring in my week, and it's leading up to the next, I have some travel coming up. I'm going to a conference on Saturday, St. Louis. I'm gonna be there for a number of days. I have been kind of working and planning and organizing an event for women in financial planning. So women like myself who work in the field, and kind of organizing a lovely evening for all of us to get together at a conference. And so, hi Susan, good to have you. Thanks for hopping on. And so that has been taking a lot of the time from, as far as my, sorry, I got something on my screen and I can't see you. There we go. Okay, I'm back. And so I am actually particularly excited about that because it's the event is filling up and it's going to be awesome, and I have never done anything like that. So you guys, my friends on Facebook, stay tuned. You'll see a lot of posts in the next couple of days. But I'm excited, and it is my money win because I've put my heart and soul into working on this project. It's actually coming up to be a group called Collective, and it's specifically tailored to women like myself in financial planning who want to do better, who want to grow themselves, they want to grow their networks, they want to connect, and then they want to give back and serve clients, families, communities, in whatever shape and form they're interested. So that's kind of the idea. Stay tuned for more on that. So and this is an example, for those of you who are watching for the first time, this is an example of what a money win or one positive, exciting moment, and I've got more than that, but this is sort of the highlight of my week. So give yourself this opportunity, give your mind, right, this chance to see what has been really good, because it just can't be all, I came to realize that it just can't be all about work. It can't be all about any particular topic, right? Family, kids, yourself, whatever focus that you have, you have to kind of step out of it, because only then you start to see what's happening around you. So I found it useful to reflect. So reflections is something that is very useful, and I feel that relationships we have with our finances cross over into every aspect of our lives. And so if we start recognizing these positive, really appreciative moments, it just works on a whole different level. So as you guys hop on, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Drop me a note in the chat. That way I know you're here. Share this out. So let's get into the actual topic of, do we have a chicken? Do we have the egg? And what comes first? So the whole idea and why I kind of started to use this analogy came from, I was listening to a podcast about, it was one of the financial podcasts a long time ago. And so what it kind of started, the trend was about the fact that so many people live paycheck to paycheck. There's very few who have emergency reserves. And so the idea here was, how can you focus on paying your debts and at the same time accumulating the emergency reserves first, right? I'm not talking about any other savings and things like that. That's kind of a conversation for the next round of discussions we're going to have. And so this podcast host used an analogy of chicken and the egg, and so I like it, right? And you can argue what comes first, but what I want you to think about is not what comes first, but how can you get both at the same time, right? And so think about this. If you found yourself in a situation where you've got to focus on paying off the debts, because we talked about last week about debts being something that gets in the way of you accomplishing your goals. So if you have to do that, then focus on creating a schedule of what you're gonna pay off first, creating a way for you to get rid of it. So, but if you have to do two things at the same time, and that's why I was saying, hey, I want to have it all, we will have an approach to that. So the idea here, again, with the chicken and the egg, is that how can you have both? And so, because that's really, because it's never going to be, right? When you look at overall life, right? And how things happen. It's never going to be one or the other. It's always going to be everything's happening at the same time. And so how do you kind of prioritize and make choices on what comes first, right? And it's almost like everything is number one. So, but I also want you to think about this. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit from, we know we have a plan to get out of the debt, right? Perhaps we need to create more income. We have a plan in terms of knowing which debts we're going to pay first. We know how can you continue going with that. But what I also want to introduce is the idea of you needing to have an emergency reserve. And my rule of thumb, and you can look into that in more details, but it's sort of a range, and I would probably argue that it depends on how you earn your income, right? So if you own variable income, you probably want to be more on that higher number. So if you have more of a steady job, you work for, let's say I have a lot of clients who are federal employees, then you might be on that lower number on the spectrum, but it's 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, okay? So if you, let's say, need to live on $5,000 a month, then your emergency reserves need to be $15,000 all the way to $30,000, right? So it's kind of a range, and you get to kind of make a decision. So I would be advocating for at least 3 months worth of living expenses. So if that's the goal that you have for yourself, right? Are you somewhere already halfway there, and then all of a sudden, or if you have none, right, that you've already started. Hi, Sveta, good to have you here. Oh, Lisa, thanks for sharing your money win. Oh, that's awesome. Ah, okay, very cool, very cool. So, so how do you get to do both? So if you are on the way just starting at the same time, right? Because what I don't want to happen is, and a lot of you have kind of a one sort of targeted angle, is that you work really hard and focus on paying off your debts, okay? Whatever those debts are. We talked about last time about bad debts versus good debts. Some of the bad debts need to be worked on first. And so where do you start? And so, because what I don't want to happen is that you kind of have a plan, you work really hard, and you're so close, right, to getting rid of your debts. And then all of a sudden an emergency happens, and then the whole plan kind of falls apart. It happens to all of us in the past, right? And maybe more than once. So what I propose, and here's kind of a thought here, is that if you want to have it both ways, why don't you say, okay, for example, if your debt, you need to pay, let's say you have you're making your minimum debt payments, and you have additional $500 a month to devote to paying down your debt over here and then increasing your emergency reserves. I would say that you split that in half. You put half into continue lowering your debts, and then the other half goes into increasing your emergency reserves. So, hi Johnny, good to have you here. So that way, right, because again, remember, if you look at your own situation, and I have hundreds, probably thousands at this point of examples with clients where not having a proper emergency reserves caused clients accumulating debt. Actually, even today, I had a couple who came in from, they're still kind of living abroad, traveling everywhere, but accumulated quite a bit of debt. And the reason is that not have enough in your emergency reserves. And so I want you to think about how can you, whatever funds you have, how can you allocate both? Because yes, some of you can argue and say, well, I'm gonna push really hard and get rid of my debts, right? Because the interest that you pay is higher, and that's fine. I don't disagree with that, but I also feel like you're missing out on the opportunity to accumulate on this side right here. So I advocate for half and half. You can divide it any way you want. I've seen clients do maybe a little bit more, like 60 or 70% of your disposable income towards the debt, because that's obviously costing you money, but still funding the emergency reserves, right? A lot of times, right, and it's almost like sometimes, and I've seen this too, clients accumulated quite a bit of money in emergency reserve beyond what they needed. They turned around, used those money to pay off the debt faster. So you see, you opening up doors for yourself to succeed if you're starting to have a strategic approach of how can you actually get both. So at the end of the day, when you, yes, Jim, I agree that at least 50% should go to debt. And you know, sometimes when we're talking about long-term debts, right? Like if you have a mortgage, or if you have with those debts that are kind of falling in the good category, you know, mortgages, student loans, those are, you know, normally larger amounts. They take a long time to pay off. The approach is the same, right? You still, because you can't just put one piece on hold and, you know, and work on the other. So do it all, have a strategy, and start, you know, with little steps, but at least you're not missing out on one or the other. And I tell you, like, one of the primary reasons people accumulate debt is because there are no emergency reserves. So it's like, if you've gotten yourself in that situation, here's your way out of it. And so I kind of want to close with a quote here for those of you who are here for the first time. I like to find some, you know, similarities in terms of topics that we cover here. And I found something that kind of resonated. So it says the following: your emergency fund is not an investment. Okay? So think about that. We're not talking about here, and Jim is my partner in our Main Street Financial company, Main Street Financial Planning firm that we run. And so we've seen all kinds of examples, right? So emergency fund is something that goes in the very, very base and safe kind of a savings account, right? It's not invested anywhere crazy. Hi, Nancy. Good to have you here. So it's not an investment. And so again, your emergency fund is not an investment. It's an insurance. You can think of it as insurance, right? Because a lot of you know that insurance is as a way to protect yourself or your family. So it's an insurance with one purpose: to protect you and protect your family. So if you can start thinking of it that way, so it's an insurance that you don't have to pay an insurance company for, right? But you get to keep all the premiums, right? So you get to benefit from it as well. You're gonna be on a very, you know, right path in getting yourself out of debt and accumulating emergency reserves. And I want you to think about down the road, if you're finding yourself in this position right now, think about where can you be, right, once that goes away. So with that, I'd like to close, and my screen just went away. Sorry about that. With that, I'd like to close. So for those of you who are hopping on live, thanks for being here. Share your money wins. I'll go back and comment and respond to it. And let me know if you have other strategies in terms of what comes first, or you're like me who wants to have it all, and we're gonna have chicken for dinner and we're gonna have eggs for breakfast. Thank you guys. With that, I'm gonna see you next week. Bye for now.